Hello there. I've just finished this. That was very loud. I apologise. Pardon me. I've just finished this 2-day tournament. I left as soon as the awards were presented because it's just started to rain, and as this is England, it's not really stopped raining since September, which is not a surprise. But we've had a couple of days of nice weather. Anyway, I'm waffling on. Day 2 went okay. I lost my first game. I played against a lovely lady called, I think, Rebecca. I can't remember her name. And she had a it was a horrible list. It was such a good player, great list, really nice person, but Jesus Christ, it was a horrible list. I'll tell you what was in it. It had 5. It was a Vampire Counts list. It had 5 shrieky things and 3 reasonably good wizards, all with like bonuses to cast and stuff. And it started off with like the general miscasting, and because of a thing that a rule that applies to, it's like one of the Mortis engine type things. Anyway, they get +1 to cast, but if they miscast, then they must roll on the miscast table twice. So the general managed to do 2 wounds to itself, because it rolled 2 of the damagey effects and killed a few skeletons, which I thought, this is going quite well. And then it really didn't, because like there's 3 million like leadership debuff sort of spells. There's a spell that's -2 to leadership. There's these aura effect things, vortices, that she could cast 3 of, and like that were all -1 to leadership within 8 inches, which, because it's a 5-inch template, it's like a huge bubble of -1 leadership, all of which stack. And then of course you've got all the screams from the Mortis engine type thing that might not be a Mortis engine. It is a Mortis engine, yeah. So the Mortis engine's got this scream thing. The 2 Terrorgeists have it, 2 Banshees have it. So I didn't really have any missile weapons or anything that could really like nail into the characters, so I couldn't really snipe them out. So yes, for instance, it was so much damage. For instance, in one turn of just screaming at a unit of Chosen with not even all of them, she managed, and with a couple of magic missiles, she managed to kill, what was it? It was about 12, 13, 14 Chosen with shields, like, because armor doesn't help. So you pay a lot for all the armor, but it's of no benefit. And the 6-up ward, it's not massively useful. So yeah, that was that really. That Vampire Counts, that particular list is very, very good. And to be honest, I don't think it's amazingly difficult to wield. You do need to know what you're doing, but once you've got the hang of it, I think that's a very strong contender for winning tournaments style list. Then I played. So that's basically what happened. I just got screamed off the table, and the thing is, the scream, there's nothing you can do about it. So it can be, you can scream at units that are in combat, you can scream at units that you are in combat with. In fact, if you're a large target like a Terrorgeist, you can scream out of combat to something that you can see, because I can't tell anyway. I don't think there is a rule that says line of sight is restricted by combat. So if you're a large target, you can see over friendly and enemy models, so you can basically see over a unit you're in combat with, which is it was just absolutely devastating. There's almost, if I'd have rolled so the one thing that I've learned about Chaos is don't start rolling for Eye of the Gods until you're in combat, because stupid doesn't really matter when you're in combat, right? You can still do all the things you want to do, but stupidity is just, it's so, you think like they're all high leadership, it'll never happen, but so many times over the 2 results where I got absolutely trounced were because I rolled stupid on like my general or whatever, and ended up failing the leadership test at the worst time possible. And against the Beastmen and against this other list, like, I suppose the other thing that went wrong was the general, didn't pass a single ward save, which didn't help. A few more would have been nice, and it might have been able to do a bit more work, or at least take the focus off the chosen warriors, so they got to do a bit more fighting. And I nearly killed the general, but rolled badly for various attacks. So that game 4 went really badly. Game 5 was against another dwarf player. I don't like playing against dwarves because it's like wading through treacle. It's I like playing against dwarves because it's a bit of a challenge always, and actually my army's pretty well suited because it's like 200% aggro type army. But playing against dwarves is always a bit of a challenge. So this time it wasn't. No, I just kind of walked through I don't really know what happened. Like, I just kind of walked through a dwarf army and it was all gone very shortly. And I think he'd given up after a few turns of some particularly bad dice rolls, and he might have had a pretty bad weekend, all told. He wasn't very happy in general, which I felt a bit sorry for him really, but you have bad weekends. So I ended up winning 3 out of the 5 games, which is okay. It's average for Chaos. And bearing in mind the list was essentially developed on Thursday after rugby practice, when I realised, oh no, I've got a tournament on Saturday. What have I got available? How much do I need to rebase? So I just threw together a list based on what I had based. I think Chaos Warriors, my big learning opportunity for Chaos Warriors is definitely, I think a Lord on a Dragon is probably the way to go. Like, the unkillable Lord on Dragon is the way to go. With the level 4 wizard, backed up by MSU everything else. Maybe not MSU everything else, maybe a little block of Chosen with like the banner of Rage. I think that's still viable, but to contain the Battle Standard Bearer, to be a bit of a linchpin for the whole army to kind of function around, I think that's probably the only way that they get good. Because like Forsaken are great. You can run them MSU. You can give them Swift Stride by making them Forsaken of Slaanesh. I think that's probably... I see people running them with Khorne because then it's Hatred all enemies, so they get to reroll hits, which is, can be quite good. Their combat abilities are really good, and they're not tremendously expensive. They will get shot off quite easily, but they're not tremendously expensive. And they're skirmishers, so they're -1 to hit in shooting, which is, quite valuable actually, this additional thing. I think Warhounds are okay for screens, but they're not very big units, so it's a pity really, because the army that I wanted to be good was essentially a load of dogs chuntering across the field, screening everything, followed by an implacable horde of Chaos Warriors. That's what I wanted to be good. It's not. So that list that I'd really like to take is probably not a goer, which is a bit disappointing really. But yeah, I think that's the answer for Chaos. There's some really weird rules interactions that came up, which I might do another video about later, but this is supposed to be a quick one. I'm just sat in the car outside the venue, essentially waiting for my GPS signal to come so I can tell it to navigate me home. Like every single event I've been at, Rob Symes' place has been absolutely wonderful. You meet some really interesting people there, some really keen people. Obviously, you used to work for Games Workshop, so there's a load of people, sort of GW and staff, like past and present there. they're all, they're all pretty good at explaining the game. It's really interesting that that there are a few guys there who are play testers of the old world, and even they were getting rules wrong. So if you're sat at home feeling guilty because you've just played a game and you got something wrong that allowed you to win it, that's normal. The whole game and how it interacts with other bits of the game, so for instance, there was a discussion about drilled, right? Again, there's always a discussion about drilled, but there was a discussion about drilled in that you can take a unit and then you can kind of form behind, but you form behind that way, and then you can move and expand and reserve movement like that and just get loads of free movement. And it's no, you can't, because you have to collapse around the centre, because the standard bearer must always be in the middle of the unit, for instance, which is an interaction I hadn't thought of. Apparently, I am told this is going to be in an upcoming FAQ, although, whatever. Rumours are rumours, right? I believe it when I see it in black and white. But apparently drilled, it is intended for you to be able to use drilled before you fall back in good order or flee. So that's quite good. In which case it becomes insanely good. But that might be the answer for dwarves, because dwarves are in a pretty tough place right now. There's nothing in dwarves that makes them really good, if you see what I mean. You look at all the factions, and they've got one or two things that look really, really tasty and look like pretty much a must take. High elves, you've got to take a prince on a dragon, right? That's, if you're going to be competitive in a tournament game, you've got to take a prince on a dragon. You don't if you're just having a fun game, obviously, but so I think it's nice having a chat with Rob about the game and all the rest, and where it's up to, because obviously he's not interested in just the old world, but he looks at all other games, and he seems to be quite positive about the Marvel game. I just don't have the time to look at other game systems, really. I've got loads of other interests as well, so this is just one of my many hobbies. Come and see my many hobbies. It's been a pretty good weekend. Anyway, what was I talking? Oh yeah, yes. It was nice talking to Rob about where he thinks the game's at. He had a really interesting observation that Games Workshop have never made. They've never made a good game. Some are better than others. But what they do is they make fun games. So they make games that are fun to play. They're just not very good in terms of structurally. Whereas, what did he say? Flashpoint or something? I don't know what he was talking about. I don't know anything on the Warhammer side. But anyway, he said that another game system is structurally very good and makes a lot of sense, or something or other. But it's I don't know. I just think it's an evolving landscape. Is the old world? I mean, it's the only thing I'm really interested in. Is it for historic reasons that I like the old world? But I do like rank and flank. I do like being able to take away individual models, because I know there are other options where you can assign damage to units and then you take off the unit if blah blah blah. I do like a game where there's some interaction between two players. I do. It ticks a lot of boxes for me in terms of how it plays. And I suppose that's why I always liked fantasy over 40k, for instance, because it just feels like a strategy game, whereas 40k feels a bit less strategic somehow. To me, moving blocks of troops around makes way more sense than deciding whether a Titan can see inside a building because the troops are 1 inch in and whatever. My one criticism is that he didn't play the rule of 3. He played the rule of 6 for core choices and the rule of 3 for. So if you don't know what the rule of 3 means, basically what that means is if you can take more than 3 of a unit you can only take 3. If you can only take 2 of a unit, you can only take 2. So the rule of 3 doesn't expand on limitations. It means that you are more restricted. And what that does is it stops people like spamming gyrocopters and stuff like that. But the rule of 6 on core choices, I think, is okay, but it doesn't work for some factions. Because some factions have some core choices that are insanely good. Like Night Goblins, for instance. You know, that means you could stick 18 Fanatics on the table. Which, yes, 450 points, but it's probably 450 points well spent if you can stick 18 Fanatics on the table. That's quite unpleasant to deal with. I mean, I suppose they don't do magical attacks, but, you know, whatever. So, yeah, that's I think I'd have preferred rule of 3 across the board, because it also, that's kind of what I was expecting as well. I was a bit confused when I was reading through the lists, and some people had like more than 3 of something. You know, just seemed a bit kind of odd. But yeah, another rule that I keep getting told about is that you've got to charge from at least 3 inches away to get your impact hits, which I didn't think was a thing, so I'll have to check that out. But I'm sure I've been told that by multiple people, so that's obviously something I've missed. And I suppose that's another point I'd make, that, you know, I'm quite interested in this, and I read quite a lot of stuff around this, you know, and I'm in various chat groups with various people who, you know, the rumour mills around Games Workshop games are just insane, though. Like literally insane. Like, everybody says something slightly differently, and this is why I don't really believe anything until I see it printed, because, you know, everybody says something differently, and there's not one person that's reliable, right? So, well, not that I've discovered yet. So everybody says something different. So we'll see. But apparently, I'm led to believe a big FAQ is incoming. A 12-page FAQ is currently winging its way to the Warhammer community website, if it's not there already. And I think that would be good. There is a lot that we need sorting out. You know, we need Drilled to be written much better. Please, thank you very much. Because the limitations of what constitutes a move is, you know, is important. Oh, pardon me. And yeah, there's lots of other stuff. Like, for instance, like the Scream ability in Vampire Counts is just way too good when you consider what else you can achieve with the Necromancy. Like, you know, and to be honest, like, it feels to me like it ought to be like, if you fail your modified leadership check, then you just take, I don't know, D3 seems a bit too powerful, because, I don't know, it's really difficult to write rules for the game, to be honest, isn't it? Because it's like, so you could have it like, if you fail your leadership check, you take D3 wounds, right? You could have it so it's up against unmodified leadership, which would mean some factions would just never fail. You could have it up against unmodified -2, you know, which I think would be okay. It's just the fact that you can, you know, or you just can't do it when you're in combat, right? You know, or yeah, you just make it like a missile weapon, but instead of firing normally, a model with a deathly shriek or whatever, can do the following: pick a unit within line of sight and 8 inches, and take a leadership check, -2 to the leadership, and every, you know, point that you score. So I think there are answers to that, really, but split profile seems to have died down a little bit. In that, you know, people aren't playing it like my first opponent, you know, obeyed with his high elves. You know, he said he hasn't played the high elf, you know, the always strikes first, transferring from the prince to the dragon, even though on the split profile it should, rules as written. You know, that needs fixing. I did try and suggest a fix for that I thought was quite elegant, but maybe it's not a problem. I don't know. But it's like, yeah, I don't know, because like I didn't see anything. The screen was a bit prop. So what did I find? What have I found so far at tournaments that's problematic? Necrosphinx attacks, scream definitely. I think the Bulgor's a bit good. Not because his baseline is very good, but because of all the extra stuff that you can build onto it. So I think Mark has his Bulgor up to like 7 attacks with like strength 7 AP 2 or something ridiculous. You know, which is just absolutely nuts. You know, considering that only costs like, what was it, 300 and something points. I mean, it's not as mobile as a flying monster, so I guess it's probably okay. Yeah, I don't know. Again, I suppose it's really early days. It's far too early to start making any conclusions about what broken looks like. I do get the sense though that a lot of legacy factions, they haven't been massively well thought through, in that some of the effects in the special rules from some of the legacy factions or some of the monsters or whatever are just too good. Like the Dark Elf Dragon with its strength 4 no armor save breath weapon, which is just fantastic. So, you know, we'll see. But I've had a really good weekend. It's been really nice catching up with Rob again and having a chat with him and meeting some wonderful new people. Some of which I got to have a game with, but most of which you just kind of bump into and have a chat. And I think that's the main thing about tournaments. Like, if you're not a tournament player but you like the game, see if, like, there's a tournament going on, see if people want, like, help with, like, manning a bar or, like, going around making sure people get their results posted or, you know, whatever. Just see if they want some assistance fetching and carrying lunches or whatever. Just volunteering to help set up or place terrain in between rounds or something like that. Like, if you don't feel you're a tournament gamer but you like the game, I'd encourage you to go to a tournament and just, like, you know, have a chat with. Well, I suppose it depends how sociable you are, but, you know, if you like people, just go and have a chat and just say, how are you getting on? That's all you need to say. That's the most common question that you get asked and you will ask at a tournament. How's it going? And then people tell you their stories, and they're just mostly wonderful. You know, it's loads of people having fun. You know, it's high energy sort of environment. Really, really good. Really good fun. So yeah, thanks for Rob for hosting. Thanks everybody for listening to me waffle on again. If I've not got a signal, I'll just drive around for a bit until I do. And I need to do a video about the Orc and Goblin book, don't I? Because that's out now. Oh God, then I need to finish off my Camry. Oh, I've got a really busy week. Anyway, at work, I mean. Oh, then we're going away for the weekend. Oh, and I need to rewrite my thesis. Oh. Anyway, I'll do some meta tomorrow, and, you know, I probably won't get time to do any more videos this week. I'll do the Orc and Goblin thing probably tonight, and I'll do the meta thing tomorrow, because there's been some interesting results over the weekend as well in other tournaments, which I've been keeping an eye on. So we'll have a chat about that tomorrow. But yeah, I just thought I'd give everybody a quick update as to how it's gone. And I managed to win 3 games. And the other 2 I lost massively, but should have lost less massively had I written a half decent list. But more MSU I think is key in AOS. Like small units of highly effective troops, I think is kind of where it's at. With a few big monsters and maybe one core unit to act as a bit of an anvil. Don't know, but that's kind of where it's shaping up in my head at the moment. But anyway, thanks for listening. If you like the video, there's a button for that. And if you're still watching and you're not a subscriber, if you got this far, I hope I've done enough to earn a sub. So anyway, toodaloo.